All right. Hi, I'm here today with consulting astrologer and YouTube teaching sensation, Stormie Grace. Stormie, am I correct that you initially set up an online tuition-free astrology school with other top astrologers in 2021 to help teach a new generation of astrologers
I
our
did.
stellar science?
I did, and it's funny to think about how that happened because I had been in practice for some time and just owning my little piece of the internet world. And Uranus made its ingress into Taurus. And I tell you what, it was a lightning bolt. And I said, you know what? Why can't we all gather together and teach our community for free for a little bit? We're locked inside.
So you
What
were a community organizer rather than an academic dean in a way.
I really was. And it's interesting, I look through the lens of the Stormie Grace business chart and it's heavy Libra energy. It's very much so. And it's high in the sky in the 11th house. So it is about the collaborative feature. So looking at just, all of the astrology around how that came, and it came together though, Scott, in 3 days out of nowhere. I had never crowdfunded anything in my life. I got one piece of instruction from Adam Eldenboss, and
Yep.
then we campaigned for an entire YouTube academy. And I just went to my fellows and I said, hey, I've done a thing. Will you come teach for me? And it was beautiful because we started at the history of Western astrology with Chris Brennan, and we
Yep.
moved from the basics all the way through. And the most gorgeous part to me is that the community got to just show up and learn. They got to just show up and learn. You didn't have to create a YouTube account. You didn't have to do any of that. We crowdfunded it, so everybody had some investment in there. And then the teachers came from multiple disciplines, and we had to learn to work together to teach these basics
And
in a
that's
way.
always fun.
It was hurting a couple mosquitoes, but it came together beautifully.
So let me
Just
get this straight. Let me get it straight. So the people that attended the school and the classes did do some initial crowdfunding.
mhm.
So so
Yeah,
so there was a small payout for a
yeah,
large reward. All right.
yes,
Is the school still free, or have
yes.
you had to start charging?
No, it's still there. It is still up on the YouTube channel and it is in order. So if you are new or getting started, or you think, yeah, I've really got those houses, but I need aspects, or I got the aspects, but I don't know how to put it together, or how do I really work with a solar return chart? It is in order. Come to the YouTube channel. It's up there. Sit down for an hour and a half, 2 hours and learn.
Now, are these recordings of what was taught, or is it still live teaching?
No, it's not live teaching. It is a recording of when the live teaching happened, but
Fantastic.
it was over a year because I thought, okay, we'll do like 12, right? We work in 12s around here. So we'll do maybe 12 classes. We ended that year with 52 classes because other astrologers showed up and said, hey, look, I can teach about this. Can I teach for you? That is how this worked.
Amazing. You're answering all my questions. This is good. But I will say you characterized it as an experiment in outsourced education. So I must ask, was the experiment a success?
I think that the experiment was a success in multiple ways because I do have a Capricorn South node. So I do tend to think, like, how is this really coming together, right? Like, is this beneficial for all? So for the students who are still taking the academy, it was an absolute success because people still write to me and the other teachers today and say, I've got kids. I cannot afford to take the astrology classes right now. And this has helped me. I have people who are brand new to astrology who came from my family was this religion. I wasn't even allowed to talk about it, but now I just understand my sign a little bit better. So in these ways, the academy has absolutely made astrology accessible, and that is changing lives.
And
But
I
it's
looked it over. It seems to me to be a very full curriculum.
very from the ground
Yeah.
up. But it was also a beautiful opportunity for the teachers as well, because so many students had no idea about some of these teachers that they were even out there. What do you teach? What do you specialize in? So we got students and teachers together so people could find their tribe.
Nice.
Yeah,
Wow.
it
Well,
was good.
did most students actually finish the program, go all the way through, or are they still doing it at their own pace?
We've got a lot of people who are still doing it at their own pace. Listen, we know people, Scott, right? There are those people who on day one were probably at day 52, even though I didn't make the class yet. Wide variety of us out there.
They looked into the future and they took class 52, right? Yeah.
So, but we do have students who, or they did get to the end and then they realized they're like, I kind of think I need to go back here because when Nadia was talking about the composite chart, I got a little lost. So I realized I needed to tighten up over here. So I watched Sam's video,
you had such a wonderful crew of teachers, I have to say. So many of them are friends or respected colleagues. So was Margaret great teaching too? I think she was.
She did. Yeah. She did. Absolutely. She did an interpretation class for us. And she too was a person. She came forward and she said, hey, can I teach for you? And I was like, yes. I almost just felt like, oh my gosh, I love all of us. Please, nobody else come forward. This is so many people. Like, I don't know what to do. But
it's like a potluck supper and the dishes keep coming, right? And the tables about to collapse, right?
But as long as the students and the teachers and ultimately the community and the industry of astrology benefited, that's really what I was going for.
Well, with more well-trained astrologers, we have a better industry ultimately, I suppose. But perhaps I don't know what you mean by the industry of astrology. This might be a good thing to ask you to go a little further with.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I cannot miss that astrology itself in the big economic field out there of categories that we can get put under, accounting, entertainment, education. We are holding our own as an industry title. So that also means that we have some accountability to be stepping up to, how are we conducting ourselves as astrologers who want to be taken serious as a business industry, as a consulting industry. So in that vein, I do think about the things that I do as well. It's not just, oh, it's fun with the astrologers, but it's when we go out and you're at the dinner party and you say, I'm an astrologer, then there's a space of respect for our industry and what we do and the training that we get into. And it's not just, manifest because Jupiter's here, but it's like, are you hurting because you're in this phase of life? And I can talk to you about your cycle and help make life better for you, help bring benefit, right? So I do think about it as a community and what we're doing, but also the big picture of an economic industry as well.
And when you talk about dinner parties, I've had so many experiences where I used to joke, sometimes I would tell people I was a life coach because it was more respectable, but I would tell people I'm an astrologer and they immediately say, oh, I didn't know you could make a living doing that. And in every case, they thought I said astronomer, which is so interesting. So.
Yeah, well, it's really different because post pandemic times, people have talked about going to get small business loans or things like that. And they are asking, what do you do? And they're like, I'm an astrologer. And they're like, yeah, okay, cool. And they're able to get a business loan, which if you back up pre-2019 and you said, I'm an astrologer, you had to put life coach, I'm an entertainer, I'm a this, that, and the third, but you could not just say, I'm an astrologer and somebody was going to give you some monies.
That is an amazing sea change, actually. You're quite right. What I did wonder, is there an emphasis on any particular school of astrology, such as archetypal or evolutionary astrology in your online academy?
There's not. We tried to just get the basics through the lens of a lot of different disciplines. So what ended up happening is we got the basics. Okay, this is kind of how we think about it. Here are the things that here. And then we allowed each astrologer to explore the concept through their own lens. And where this actually became beneficial is that the people who really wanted to study archetypal, or the people who were like, listen, I'm Hellenistic till I die, which I was like, that's funny because it's kind of malefic. So they got to find their teachers and then continue down that road. Because in addition to the classes, underneath every class, if you go and you look at it, there's the teacher's contact information. There's the teacher's website. So if you found that you are an evolutionary person, you could get to your evolutionary tribe. So there really wasn't a focus. We worked really hard to try and be bland and then throw in your stuff.
Well, perhaps it's a situation where you built a kingdom and like if you built it, they will come. And then the tribes arrived. You built a kingdom that could accommodate enough different
Mm.
tribes. Let me see. You have an
Yeah.
astrology business course, which consists of 5 pre-recorded classes available for purchase on your website, which is stormiegrace.com. How much of this material will attendees of your NCGR workshop be encountering?
Yeah, they're going to actually be able to get all of that. Plus, this class, that astrology business class, has been extended to a 10-part series now. So there will also be some of that coming in as well that no one has access to just yet. So you guys are getting some of the good stuff.
Getting it first. We like that. Mercury and Aries. Now, before we go any further, and I want to, let's return to first causes. Where and when were you born, Stormie?
Oh, yes. I was born May 4th, 1982 in Colorado Springs, Colorado.
And what time?
1:58 p.m.
Thank you. And what do you think other astrologers would find the most outstanding or intriguing features of your natal chart if you had to hazard a guess?
Well, I don't actually know the answer to that because as many people have looked at it, because through the pandemic, a lot of astrologers looked at my chart. It was interesting what people cued in on. Kathy Rose is one of my mentors and teachers, and she immediately looked at my Venus at 0 degrees Aries at the Aries point. She said,
That's
"You
what I
will
saw.
yeah,
Yeah.
she said, you are a maverick and you are keyed to the vibration and frequency of Venus, which couldn't be more true if you know, it hurt. But then I sat with my buddy Rick Levine and he said, oh, look at this quincunx between your Jupiter and your Mercury, you know, and so Rick is in the exciting aspects that we don't spend a ton of time in, you know, so we had that. And someone else said, look at this stellium. And then it's you're a Mercury ruled chart and you've got Mercury and Gemini high in the sky. Are you a broadcaster? What do you do? You know, so
And you are.
yeah, I am all of those things. So I think that there has been a dynamic. I've got Uranus near the IC. You know, what people have found interesting to me over this last couple years, I have found out is what they are interested in.
Well, that's the final story. Yes, yes. And remember, tell Rick Levine to look at asteroid storm because it's right there, you know, aspecting Jupiter and Mercury.
I know, but this is the thing. If I ask him to do that, I'm going to end up on another planet. You know, he's like one of my favorite people, and I'm like, Rick, hold on, I'm not sure. I think I left my purse back there. I just need to get my purse, and then I can come back to this explanation.
Oh, my goodness. Let me ask, who was your first teacher of astrology?
So my first teacher in this lifetime was Stephen Forrest. I came through the Stephen Forrest work, but for me also, and I can never fail to say this, for me, when I was as young as I can remember, I'd always been able to see spirit and kind of move between the worlds. And that is just a function of the intuition. It's not necessarily astrological. I do believe those two things are different. But I was 6, almost 7, right there at that square. And my mother took me to a metaphysical fair because she started to see that I just wasn't seeing the world the way my brothers were. And I saw the numerology and all of the things, liked it, loved it. I was like, these people are great. But I watched an astrologer hand doing a chart, and I felt like I had done that 1,000 times. It just seemed like the most natural thing in the world to be watching. So somewhere in my story or my mind, wherever it's lost, I've been here doing this for a minute. And from that point, I think it's really significant to say this. I never worried so much about astrology, and I never felt like, oh my God, I got to get into a class, because I've never felt like I would ever be without astrology. You know what I mean? So I had a
Yes.
little bit of a relaxed fit. So by the time I found Stephen and really settled into the work of going through those courses and really kind of getting the astrological training, it just felt like a homecoming. Midway through actually practicing, after going through all of that with Stephen Forrest's work, I was in a grocery store of all places, and I heard this booming voice be like, let's go. And I was like, I'm coming. I'm coming. And I'm in the grocery store. I'm sure people think I'm a whack job, but I was like, I'm coming. And I wasn't sure what that voice was. And days later, Kathy Rose showed up, and I said, I don't know. I heard this big booming voice, and she introduced me to Noel Till. And and those are the two lenses that and I didn't even know this man. And what had happened in my development from Stephen to getting with Kathy is that I had started to use some of Noelle's techniques, and I didn't realize that that's what had happened. So it all was very, I felt very led and very guided in all of my study and my training. And I encourage people to listen to that if that's what's happening for you.
Well, we're happy that Noel was a great fan of the Aries point. So he would have paid a lot of attention to that Venus. So do you tend to learn best through books, videos, recorded audio lectures, or podcasts, or in person?
I really do like to learn in person if I can. To me, I feel like there's so much value in that. I don't necessarily love books. Those are not my favorite things. With all this Mercury in my chart, those are not my favorite. I don't necessarily care for tons of reading. I never have. I also don't care for a ton of writing, which we've already talked about, Scott. I know I'm going to be coming back to it. But so for me, I really do. I like to consume things in an audio way and to be able to speak it out. But this is the function of my Mercury's right now too. I speak multiple languages, right? And that it's a very audio and oral kind of moment for me.
Do you teach in multiple languages as well?
I don't yet,
but you will.
It's coming. Yes.
Yes.
Jupiter is coming to Taurus, and I tell you what, I've got some little content ready for our Spanish speakers. So
now you have a PhD in business. So under what circumstances do you insist on being called Dr. Stormie?
I mean, just about, this is terrible, but just about never. You know what I mean? However, what I have needed to do, and I've really been taught a lot by my community, is first of all, my mother will never let anybody call me Stormie ever again on this planet. It's Dr. Grace. Like, my mother is so proud. Okay?
All right, Mom. Yeah.
Yes, if I'm getting gas and you see me, you better put doctor in front of it, or Mama Grace is not having it. Okay. So that's a big deal. But I did get to learn from my community that, to me, it seems like a very natural thing to go through that educational training. So it doesn't feel like I have to carry this title, but to hold it as sacred, because it is something that I worked very, very hard for, and that there is some validity in owning the title that I have. So I've been taught over this last couple years to use it a bit more, put it on my marketing things, and it's evolving.
Was selling your astrological services in bundles something you came up with by yourself, or was it inspired by seeing how practitioners in other fields market themselves and their services?
Yeah, it was twofold. The first thing is that it kind of came on naturally, because at a certain point, and I am a Taurus, I really do care about people's money, probably more than I should. But I was like, well, wait a minute, you're going through this progressed last quarter or balsamic phase, and we kind of need to check in a little bit more often. And, is $175 every 3 months, is this valuable to you? Does that make sense to me? Can I live with that? These kinds of questions started to pop up for me. So it started to come from kind of a natural place. And then as I expanded out a little bit more to see how people were practicing, to look at business coaches and things like that, I was like, packaging actually makes sense spiritually, morally, ethically, financially, because we're going to spend some time together. And that is really where the packages for 2023 and already the 2024 packages came from, is that I'm at a place where I want you in here. Like, get in here. I don't want to see you once a year. Get in here. What are you doing? What are you going through? So we can walk and explore the astrology together. So packages naturally, but also, functionally started to come in.
And that's so different from the paradigm of meeting with someone for 2 hours and having to tell them everything they're ever going to need to know from you for the rest of their lives in that 2 hours. Right.
Yeah.
So I think the bundling is a very interesting way to go. Now, you are incorporated as an LLC, and could you just tell the folks what an LLC is?
Yeah, it's just a limited liability corporation. So I wanted slightly more protection between my business and my personal assets. And also, truly, I just started to make too much money. And so, my accountant, because you really got to get an accountant, you got to get somebody in those books. And my tax person said, let's go here. There are more protections, there are more write-offs, there are more deductions that are going to be better for you as a business that you can't take as an individual. So this helps you keep more of your money.
And this, you'll be explaining about all this in the workshop. I have to say, it surprised me. You have some of the most eloquent legal disclaimers I have ever seen on an astrology site. Seriously, it reads like some new and beautiful form of cautious poetry. Is this due to having encountered legal problems in your practice in the past, or were you just smartly covering all your bases before you got started on your mission to bring more and better astrology to the world?
My family, outside of myself and my mom, everybody else are lawyers, judges, and senators. So,
well, there you go. You had some help in that languaging.
I'm also keyed to the frequency of Venus, so I'm like, yes, but let's say it nice,
I've never seen legal disclaimers expressed so beautifully. Thank you. I will do this myself someday. Your website is so easy to navigate and user-friendly, as we used to say. How much of its design is due to your own personal intervention?
All of it. All of it. Because this is a two-part business thing for me. There's a lot of, we have to solve a problem with a business. So you do have to understand the pain point and things like this. You have to understand the person that you're trying to help, right? But I also have seen where there's a lot of psychological baiting that can go into this, into branding, into keeping you on a website, these kinds of things. And I'm not one for the emotional traps.
Psychological baiting, you mean? I'm not sure what you mean by that.
Sure. It's the website that's really long and you're pouring out the story of your life and then the dog and then this is what happened to you and is this what happened to you too? And next thing you know, you're so emotionally invested that you're not going to psychologically be able to leave that site without purchasing something. And those do work. They are age-old Saturnian business practices and they are wise. But what I wanted and what I can go to sleep with at night for me is I want to tell you that I understand who you are, how I help you get what you are looking for, or how I do what I do. And then I want you to get to other features I have to offer and leave if you want to. I don't want to psychologically trap you. I want
them to know they'll be all right without you anyway, right?
Exactly. Yes. I am not the end all be all.
Now, did you elect a time to launch your website and also your two major YouTube channels? And if you did, I'm wondering if you did the electional work yourself, because sometimes we have birth chart blind spots that we can't circumvent ourselves, and it's good to have someone else electing.
Yeah, so I did no such election for Stormie Grace. I winged it and I said, here's your birthday. And that was it. And we've been rolling ever since. Now with Legatia Academy, which is my business school, that was much more elected. And I'll tell you what, I did elect that chart. And that chart I did. And that chart was a hard election for me because this is again where we get into the business chart, because Legatia for me, the business knowledge is all here. It flows and it's very easy. But the way Legatia wants to work is very counterintuitive to how I want to work.
That's so interesting.
And it's so funny because I have done the very thing I'm going to teach you not to do. And I tried to push on Legatia. And I tried to, I went through my whole process of things and tried to understand it the best I could, but I also got in the way and I tried to push on Legatia and it did backfire on me.
Were you yelling at the computer screen, what do you want from me? What do you want from me? Right?
That is how most of my breakthroughs come. So it is usually in that particular arrangement. It was a little bit more calm. I said, okay, listen, I seem to not be understanding you. And this is also a place of practice of grace with the chart, whether it's the business chart or your child's chart, where you can say, let me understand instead of need you to understand me. Let me understand you and see if we're in season. So we had to have a nice little reset, Lagatia and things are moving the way Lagatia wants to, which is very different than Stormie Grace. Stormie Grace is up and it's personable and it's Venus and it's all these relationships. Lagatia is a Scorpio and it really wants to be behind the scenes.
Now, Legatia, how do you spell that?
L-E-Gatia.
And is this a name you created from parts of other names, or?
No, Legatia is actually Latin for legacy.
Perfect. I'm so glad I asked that. I wouldn't have known otherwise. That's beautiful. This is your legacy that you're being trained by.
Yeah, and that was the whole point of it, in Stormie Grace. And this is how I know you can have two businesses and come to two different even mission statements that you'll create. In Stormie Grace, I'm an interpreter of the cosmos so that you can go out into the world and have some sanity and be informed. It's very much so the use of that chart, but at Legatia, it's very Saturnian. I teach astrologers how to build and grow profitable businesses so they can love what they do. It's they even have, when I access it in my body to bring it out is very different. And I can't wait for people to feel that with their own business charts.
And you're doing only what is essential with them to do that. Yes?
Yes. Like we're just get some foundations in here.
Wow. What natal chart delineation techniques will you never or rarely use for a business chart?
I don't know if there's any that I know that there's a ton I'm not using. Does that count? But I don't know if there's any that I would say I would never use that. I think that there's a great space of exploration that I just haven't tried, honestly.
We'll consider that a conceptually flawed question and move on. There you go. I have a small company that has enjoyed some initial success, and now I want to take it to the next level. How can a specialist in business astrology help me?
Yeah, well, first of all, we're going to look at, is it the timing for that chart to go to the next level? Because sometimes what happens is we've got some success, it's going well. And, is your business coming out of a progress disseminating phase where, yes, it should have been going well. You're whipping and zipping and you're getting along, but we're just months away from coming into some last quarter time. I'm going to talk to you about, okay, can we take it to the next level by maybe building some good passive income streams? Because your business is getting ready to run out of a whole bunch of energy. Let's start to turn away from maybe practices in your business it's going to take too much energy. And so you can't go to the next level. We're going to have conversations about the next level and how to get there, but in alignment with the energy and the cycle that your business has to offer it. That's the first place I would start looking at any chart, is what is the temperament and the season that your business can handle right now in the first place.
That's such a fascinating way to look at a business chart, and it's absolutely new to me. In electing the chart for a business, what factors in the chart would you seek to strengthen to help attract customers and clients?
Okay, listen, the only thing that is important for me in a business chart is I really don't want the moon near the nodes. Like if we can avoid that, I feel like that is a really good thing, unless in your heart of hearts that you want to get into that super emotional terrain, but you're going to be your business is going to need to be kind of based on kind of pulling people out of the trudges of what that looks like. And can you, in your synastry and your composite, handle that? Because that's a lot. I've seen that be a lot of work. Okay. So I don't want to see that happening if we can. And if we can avoid it, depending on the kind of business you're going to do, I don't particularly like Mars at the IC if we can move it. If we can get that away from there, that's fine. Where I have found this to be interesting, though, post-pandemic, is that it's actually very useful for a work from home business.
Of course. And I have to ask, so do you also seek to avoid the moon square to the nodes as well?
No,
you don't care.
Seen that be as big of a problem. I actually think that that's a little bit more of a driver, because what I've tended to watch businesses do with that is, like, you got to pick a side. right? You got to pick a side and kind of try it out. And then you find what works and what doesn't. So it becomes a little bit more of a driver to streamline your action and your productivity flow. So I don't necessarily think that that's a problem for me.
Good. Now, I hope I'm not tiring you out. I just have a few more questions, all right?
Okay.
Would you ever recommend looking at the synastry between a prospective client and a company's chart, or is that just too over the top?
No, I think if they're building their own business, yeah, I think it's definitely worth having a look at just so you can understand. I mean, if you're going to act as these permanent transits on each other, you kind of want to know what's going on there, or how to navigate, or what does that bring up in you? Because I can tell you, having two businesses, they have hit my chart differently, right? And they bring up completely different sides of me. Lagatia has just got me, I'm going to be a spiritual giant when I'm done with Lagatia, I think. So there's a little bit more work over there. But this is an interesting question too, because more and more in this last year, I've had people say, I want to take a job for a company that is not theirs, and I'd like to know how I would fit with it. And sometimes I think that that's a little bit more challenging, because does that company have birth information? But I've also found out in this last year, so many companies have their birth information. So when I talk about us as an industry as well, I'm aware that we're starting to make our way more publicly into what companies are doing as well. So, yes, there's some benefit to it for sure.
I mean, in a way, you're kind of business astrology, the next generation, because we have people like Georgia Stathis and Faye Blake, I think, that have been writing and thinking and doing a lot of business astrology for the past 20 or 30 years. And of course, we're in the middle of an insane paradigm change societally anyway, right? And I was listening to Gary Kristen lecture the other day, and he was citing Doug Kellogg's work. If you go to the Astrolabe site and you read the 500-year party, he's just talking about the extreme changes of 3 slow-moving planets changing signs in the next few years are going to bring into all our lives, even though we all already feel we can't handle any more change. So, we better take power naps or something, I'm afraid.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because, I was just doing a talk in Turkey about this actually, and how when Jupiter takes this ingress into Taurus and hits that square with Pluto, that's it. The door closes. We're going to the new world. That's it. Like, the old stuff will be things we will reference. So it's like, really, this is the other part of why I think that these lectures and workshops are important, because I'm like, the door's closing on the old way, and I want us to be prepared and be successful in the world that we're going into.
Wow. As a Taurus, I both like and hate what you're telling me there.
I know it. I
know. We're born, Stormie and I are only born a couple of days apart. I mean, many years apart, but just a couple of days apart. Now, let's say you know the exact time and date you came up with the idea for your business, right? We could even say the daemon or the soul of your business. Would this base chart become more important to you in terms of prediction success strategies than the incorporation chart, or the moment you open for business, or when we've already discussed when money first changed hands? But is there a place in looking at business charts for when you had that light bulb, that idea, that balloon over your head, right?
I do. I actually do. I think that's very, very important for us to listen to. I think it is very important for us to listen to the intuition. And what I explain to people, and I haven't had anybody say that this was not correct yet, but when a business drops in an intuition like that, or it comes through there, I said it's really important that we base the chart off of your offering. What is your action you take to offer to actually begin that? Everybody I know whose business has come in an inspiration offered a breath of life. They all went, oh, there you go.
The first breath. There you go.
The first breath. And that, as your offering, I think is absolutely significant to creating your business chart. Take it.
Now, there used to be a very different mindset. Some people say it hasn't changed, it's still there. So you remember the saying, winning isn't everything, it's the only thing. and the Darwinian mem of survival of the fittest were philosophical touchstones for doing business in the 20th century. They would tell you to read The Art of War if you were in business, right? 25 years into the 21st century, how can astrology help us build a new business template that emphasizes cooperation over competition? And even, the survival of the fittest or the other mock golden rule people in business like to say, the one with the most gold rules, right? You've heard that one? The one with the gold rules. You have a motto for working smarter, not harder. What would a motto be for now as we're trying to envision a better way and a more harmonious global business community? Any ideas?
Gosh, that is such a question because I just feel like there's value in all of the mottos we've had. I really think that and different generations needed different mottos to keep some things going. Do you know what I mean? They really did. So I take that into account as well. But I think because I live so much and work smarter, not harder, the question I have globally for people to consider when they're building their business is your business functioning with integrity, and is it meeting your needs? Because that's it. You need to take care of home, right? Are you running a business that makes it so that you are fulfilled, you can pay your bills, you are responsible to all the governing bodies who want some pieces of your money? And if that looks like you work 7 days a week and it's 40 hours, or you work 2 days a week and it's 14 hours, what does this meet your needs? That's it. That's all I would want to know is it honest, and does it meet your needs? Right? Because if that is the place that we're working from, I don't need to have massive marketing and branding and spending money on these social media companies if I am getting all of the clientele or all of the work that we need to be successful, right?
Or that you can handle at this stage, right? Yes,
absolutely. And that, again, we can even look at in terms of collaboration and cooperation. Like, can you cooperate in a relationship with your business? Right? That's a big deal. Like, do you even know how to get your own house in order before we're out here trying to compete with everybody else's house? Those are the questions that I think naturally drop us from some of the fear space of I have to compete or I won't survive into, well, I have everything that I need. So it's good. This is a really great example, is that if you look at a lot of astrologers' websites anymore, they'll have like a friends of, these are my friends, or I recommend this, because people are like, I don't have to be everything for everyone. If you need medical, please go see Judith or Kira. If you need this, please go over there. We're not doing that so much anymore. And I think it comes from, we don't have to be afraid because I'm honestly doing what I need to do. And my business is providing
with no fear. The urge to collaborate naturally arises, I would say.
It does. Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know if I answered your question at all, but now I have to, I'll have to think of that for the next 6 years, Scott.
Or 5 minutes. I was thinking about if we try to get different businesses, large companies, to cooperate. I wonder if any business astrologers have really gone the route of seeing if their composite charts might be favorable for 2 or more companies, within a given area or district. I haven't heard of anyone really doing this type of work. If you can match up companies that would have a positive synastry or composite chart, would they be able to cooperate or work better together? Question.
I think it is an interesting question. And I know that, even by launching the YouTube Academy, that created its own set of cooperation. So within the astrological community and industry, I think we're practicing on ourselves first, because I don't know what the full meal deal details are, but I know that many of our organizations have come together and said, okay, listen, you can't have a talk every Tuesday because we have a talk every Tuesday. Can you take Thursday? Right. And so we're starting to pull together, like, everybody can be here and how do we cooperate in that? But I think one thing I don't want us to miss is that in cooperation, in collaboration, we can also have some competition. Like try to tell Aries energy to just be. That's ridiculous. Aries is like, I am here to live and win, and we need that. That's a full piece of us as well. So we don't want to put our fire to sleep.
And let's think of the seventh house is both the partner and the open enemy, right? So in the world of business, we can have that flip. And
yeah. If you don't have some fire, you're not going to go do it. Like we're just not spiritually inspired all the time. Sometimes you just need a little to get the day going.
Well, we're almost done. Here's a thought. Would a business chart with the rulers of the 7th and the 10th houses conjunct in a strong or favorable house make such a business more open to partnerships with other companies or more vulnerable to mergers and takeovers? Again, it's that double-sidedness that we're talking about. I think this stuff will become part of business astrology. I don't think it's there yet. But
I don't think it's quite there yet either. But I certainly look forward to carrying forward what I'm learning and putting it together with people like Christine and walking into what business astrology and financial astrology gets to be next, But my question has to be, well, I mean, who's living up there? What signs, what planets are in these two positions? Because might you be more willing to collaborate? Maybe. Who's living there? And how evolved are they? How evolved is that planet and sign combination? Because that also means a lot. So it's kind of one of those questions when people are like, I'm a Cancer, can you tell me about my life? It's like, no, we need the whole rest of the chart.
Yes, we do. And otherwise you'll piss me off if some astrologer starts telling them about their past lives because they have a Cancer moon. Stop.
Yes.
Now, what are the signatures for overspending in a company's chart? I was wondering about that. Are there any?
I definitely and immediately look to the 6th house, who's over there, because I want to know what you're doing on a daily basis, right? Like, how are you engaging? And what is the condition of the 6th house? But I also like to see the 11th house because we can get a little bit grand out there. I want you to think this of me. I have the aspiration to be known for. So sometimes what can happen is I'm buying, or my company is buying or dressing up or got really good branding, but there's not enough delivery. So I like to look at those two places and see what's going on, which is funny because neither one of them have a financial.
Their branding promises more than they're actually delivering. That doesn't sound like good business to me.
That does not sound like good business. And you know what? People have been running businesses since there's been people, and people are complicated and we do things. So, sometimes it shows up, but I like to look into those two places. And then of course, depending on the chart that is in front of me, I really work a lot in the natal lunar phases. So I'm like, well, okay, we've got a first quarter business here that's not doing very well. The ability or capacity to just go spend money because it's bored now might be higher. Let's look at the chart and consider it fully. So I consider these things as well.
Interesting. Well, I'm going to have mercy on our audience and cut this conversation short, even though I still have more questions. And Stormie, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. And I feel I learned quite a bit today. And again, for those of you who are planning to attend or would like to know when and where the workshop is, it's April 22nd, I hope, 2024. Go to NCGR. No.
We're going to get them there.
Go to astrologyfla.com and you'll find all the details you need there. You can purchase your ticket there if you want and have a wonderful workshop. I'll be there in digital form, I promise. And I just can't wait to see what's next for the work you're doing in modeling and combining business and astrology. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. See you guys.